you ever heard about Zeus? Hmm. How about Hades and Poseidon? These characters and others are all in part of something called Greek mythology. What is mythology? In ancient times, people often create stories about gods and other characters to help explain things they didn't understand, like the weather or fire. These imaginary stories are somewhat called myth or mythology. Native Americans, Egyptians, Romans, and many other cultures have created myth. However, Greek mythology includes some of the most well-known stories that still exist today. Ancient Greece is a foundation for the most Western culture today, which is why you've probably heard at least a little bit about its most famous stories and characters. The period of ancient Greece lasted from 800 BC to 146 BC, which is the Roman conquered Greece. The stories the Greeks developed are very popular, and they help them explain the world around them because they didn't have access to the same level of science and technology that we do today. They couldn't explain the natural phenomena like the sun rising and falling every day or the occasional thunderstorm.
Greek mythology is a fascinating subject that has captured the imagination of people for thousands of years. It is a collection of stories and legends that were passed down orally from generation to generation before being recorded in writing. These stories were used to explain the natural phenomena, human behavior, and the origins of the world and the gods. According to Greek mythology, the world began with chaos, a void of darkness and confusion. From chaos emerged Gaia, the earth goddess who gave birth to Uranus, the sky god. Together, Gaia and Uranus created the Titans, who were powerful giants that ruled the world. Hesiod's Theogony states that there were 12 original Titans. The brothers Oceanus, the Titan god of ocean; Poeus, the Titan god of conquest; Phaeus, the Titan god of constellation; Hyperion, the Titan god of heat and power; Lapetus, the Titan god of mortality; and Cronus, the Titan god of life; and the sisters Thea, Titan goddess of life; Rhea, the Titan goddess of female fertility, motherhood, and generation; Themis, Titan goddess of justice and order; Nemesis, Titan goddess of memory; Phoebe, Titan goddess of the moon; and Tethys, the Titan goddess of the The most famous of the Titans was Cronus, who overthrew Uranus and became the king of the gods.
Did you know that 8 of the Titan brothers and sisters are married to each other? The parents were generally considered to be Cronus and Rhea, Oceanus and Titans, Hyperion and Thea, and Coeus and Phoebe.
Cronus was eventually overthrown by his son Zeus, who became the king of the gods and ruler of Mount Olympus. Zeus was joined by a pantheon of the 12 gods and goddesses that was also known as the Olympians, who had their own powers and responsibilities. Together, they presided every aspect of human life. The 12 Olympians are Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, Hera, Demeter, Hermes, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Apollo, Artemis, and Dionysus. Zeus was the most powerful god and the ruler of gods and humans. He served as chief judge on Mount Olympus and settled arguments between the gods. He controlled the heavens, the skies, and the weather. He could morph himself and humans into anything he chose. Poseidon was the second most powerful god. He was the god of the seas and the earthquakes, which were affected by his violent temper. His weapon was a trident, a 3-pronged spear, that he struck into the sea to cause a storm. He had the power to dry up rivers, create tidal waves, and cause shipwrecks. Hera was the most powerful Greek goddess. She was the goddess of marriage and childbirth, was the protector of women. Hera was both sister and wife Zeus, with whom she reigned on Mount Olympus. Together, Zeus and Hera had 3 children, Ares, Hebe, and Hephaestus. Demeter was the goddess of the harvest. and in charge of crops, farming, flowers, and trees. She could create conditions for a good or bad harvest. She was very important goddess to ancient Greek people, who farmed a lot of them. Hermes was the messenger of the gods, as well as the god of travel and thieves. The fastest of all the gods, both running and flying, he could fly between Mount Olympus, Earth, and the underworld. Athena was the goddess of wisdom and wars and was the chief of goddess of the city of Athens, which named for her. She was a great warrior. She is known for her strategy and skill in warfare, is often portrayed as a companion of heroes, and is the patron goddess of heroic endeavor. Ares was the god of war and violence. He was a fierce warrior that enjoyed bloody battles and wasn't well liked or trusted by the other gods. Aphrodite was the goddess of love and beauty. She could make any god or mortal fall in love with anyone she chose. Festus was the god of fire, metalworking, and building. He was responsible for building many of the weapons of the gods and also crafted furniture and jewelry. He mostly kept to himself in his workshop. Apollo was the god of sun, music, poetry, archery, and healing. He could predict the future and put an oracle in a temple in the city of Delphi that told the future to those who asked. Artemis was the goddess of hunt and wild animals. She was the protector of little children and animals and could ask either disease or healing with her arrows. Artemis was also the goddess of chastity and the moon. Dionysus was an immortal and powerful god. He is a god of wine and pleasure. He had special powers of making wine and causing vines to grow. He could also transform himself into animals such as bull or a lion. One of his special powers was the ability to drive mortals insane.
Greek mythology has not only had a lasting impact on Western culture, but it has also influenced many other cultures around the world. For example, the Roman gods were largely based on the Greek gods, and many other stories and legends were adapted and retold in different ways.
In conclusion, Greek mythology is a rich and fascinating subject that has a profound impact on both ancient and modern cultures. Its stories and legends continue to inspire and intrigue people all over the world, and its influence can be seen in many unexpected